Would you like to start with the questions that you have? Okay.
Oh, yeah. So we talked about this concept of not just asking the universe, but ordering, just like ordering from Amazon. I really love the image of you don't doubt that the package from
Right.
Amazon is going to come. Like, I love the thing you said the other day about coffee, right? You order a coffee,
Right.
you're going to get the coffee. So when it comes to these bigger manifestations like money or the boyfriend or the big trip or the first class ticket, is it as simple as putting in your order in the universe? And if so, how do we amplify that? And if not, what are
It
the other
definitely
steps?
has something to do with what you call the universe, because it's the universal mind which you're a part of. You're not ordering from the universe, you're ordering from your subconscious mind, which has access to this unlimited wisdom. So that's why I gave you a practical example. Does it apply to you? This, I want to wake up at 6:05 tomorrow. Have you ever done that?
I've done something similar, like where if I have a really late night and an early morning, like from a gig to like work or something, I'll say, body, you're going to wake up with the exact amount of REM cycles that you need. I know it's only going to be 4 hours, but you're going to get what you
Right.
need. So I've done things like
So
that.
in a bigger scale, it works for everything. But of course, most things won't happen overnight because it's physically impossible, because there are things that need to take place first for everything to come together. And the problem of humans is that we have assumptions based on wrong beliefs and limited information, very limited. We mentioned not being aware of the whole spectrum of light or sound as human beings, because we are physically limited to hear and see a certain range. The same way, we have assumptions about how things happen, how things will manifest, whether it's about money or the right person in our lives. That's why pregnancy is a perfect example. You can't rush the process of having a baby, right? 9 months, 10 days, right? That's the average. That's within our knowledge. We know that it takes 9 months, 10 days for a baby to be ready to come to this earth. How are you supposed to know when you will be ready to find the right person? Where is he right now? In which consequence will take place to meet you guys? That's a huge unknown, right? That's why you can't name a certain time frame for that. That's why you have to let go. But the intention is so important. If you feel like it already happened, then you're changing your filter of perception. We spoke about reticular activating system. It's scientific. It's a scientific fact. We're not making up. It has nothing to do with spirituality. You see those guys and they're there, and because of your wrong assumptions, you don't notice them, or you repel them for a reason, or you perceive them in a different way than they are, just because of repeating to yourself, I can't find those guys. I don't know where they are. There are no good guys left. They're all married, all taken, things like that. So it's not as easy as like reasoning. When I say that, you still want to say, no, I'm pretty open. I like evaluate everything as a candidate. No, it's not how it works. At a different level, you don't notice them, or you make mistakes, or you perceive their behavior as mistakes. So it never gets anywhere. So again, as a left brain person, I want to go into as details as possible, but sometimes it doesn't make sense. Like, you have to believe and act on it, and then wait to see. You don't know how long it's going to take. You don't know where it's going to come from. You don't know in what format, shape, or form. So about making money, there are actually millions of ways of making money for any person. It doesn't have to be in the way that you assume. There are many other ways, right? You can sign a contract with someone. You can be discovered. We mentioned Justin Bieber. So these miracles happen every day, thousands of them. You just need to see small examples, so that until you get there, until you see some signs and some results, you will be able to invest mentally and physically and whatever, psychologically. So that's
And what is that investment? So let's talk about that investment, because I was just in the forest and I brought journals to do some of these like future casting and take notes and about everything we've been talking about. And then I realized I
Okay.
left my pens. So I was in the forest with journals and no pens. I said, okay, this is my higher self has led me to this point where I can just lie down and start to do this deeper embodiment work and visualization work of the
Okay.
things I was going to write down. I actually spent time, like real invested time and energy on envisioning everything
Right.
I keep saying I want, that I haven't really taken the time to bask and feel it and believe it because there's such a strong pattern in me that says that's all a fantasy.
Hmm.
That's not for you.
So,
So when you're investing in this, is that kind of what you mean?
no, I'm gonna explain. So the fact that you forgot the pen, you can see it from different perspectives. You can say the universe doesn't even want me to list the things that I want. How am I gonna get them? Or it's obviously easier to write down and take notes. That's why you have to do something more difficult, mentally visualizing, which is actually what you should be doing, because even though it's more difficult, that's how it works. If you can immerse in that experience in your imagination first, that's how visualization works, right? Writing down is easy. You don't want to take the easy
Mm.
path because there are neural networks in our brain, and you're physically forming new connections between different parts of your brain, which is more difficult than just writing something down. What I mean by investing is it's again pretty easy. Ordering from your subconscious mind, remembering this during the day, and especially doing it right before you go to sleep when it's more prone to being manipulated. It's easier to manipulate your subconscious mind right before you go into sleep. So actually that's it. If I could convince people to give this a couple of days and maybe set alarms at random times during the day, and when the alarm goes on off, you're gonna say, oh, I have to order from my subconscious mind whatever I want. And order in the real meaning of ordering, like as if you're a boss, and maybe even a mean one, because you know that it has to get you what you want. So be pretty strict. There is no room for any doubt. And the stricter you are, the better it works. Just give it a week. Do it every day for a week, every night, every morning when you wake up. You're going to see something. Of course, I can't tell you what's going to happen in your life, but you're going to name it a miracle. It's going to be like, it's going to feel like a miracle, but it's not. This is how it works. This is what we expect.
Even after a week? What if I need 9 months to
No,
10
to see
miracles?
some signs, so that this is what I mean by an
Something.
investment, like something that doesn't make sense to your prefrontal cortex because there is nothing happening. You have to keep doing it for a while. I think anyone can do for 1 week, and I assure you, I've never seen anyone who didn't see anything that surprised them within a week, and that's good enough to keep going, right? When you see something, like, I don't know how big it's gonna be, but you're gonna change your filter from day one because you're expecting something, because you assume something will happen, because you trust me.
So should you start off with something small? Like what would first of all, I want an example from you on a process of the nighttime and the day ordering. But would you say that you should start with something small, like I'm going to be asked out for coffee by a really amazing person? Or should you go to what you, as you say, the end result, do something big and then watch
I
the
have a
little things
different
happen?
approach when it comes to how detailed it's gonna be, because when I first did this, it was in a different format because I read this book. I'm gonna show you the book later. He says if you repeat your request for 100 times, repeat meaning you're gonna write it down. Okay, let's say different aspects of your life, what you want in terms of money, in terms of relationships. It's like it takes like half a page in my case, and I wrote down this is what's going to happen. I was addressing American citizens who are doing social media marketing, and I was selling them leads, potential customers, information of potential customers. And I assumed that I would make a lot of money doing this as a job. So I wrote this down 25 times per day for 4 days, because it's not realistic to write it for 100 times back to back. It's so tiring. You become alienated to it, so you quit. He says, that's John Kehoe, by the way. I don't know if you're familiar with him. That's another amazing guy who changed my life. This is happening in Russia. I wrote it down in as detailed as you mentioned, like he's going to take me out. So within 3 months from living in Russia, I told you Ty Lopez's team invited me to LA, all expenses paid, and it made me feel like my LA dream is much more realistic now. I've been to LA before as a tourist, but it's a whole different story. When you come here, you start checking for apartments to live, and it becomes much more realistic. So it took me 3 months to completely leave my life in Russia and move to the US, second time in my life. But so my assumption was proven wrong. The money didn't come from selling the leads to American people, but it came from selling content to Turkish people. And I made $250,000 like in September 2017. So 3 months prior, I'm writing down to my notebook. Everything came true, like living in Los Angeles, living in a certain area. I even set a deadline for it. So it was like 3 months. But so it's like my order was accepted, but the universal mind, your subconscious mind knows better than you. He says, okay, I got it. It's going to happen, but your assumption is wrong. And here's another path that will lead you to the results that you want.
And the feeling, because you thought the feeling of that first social media idea would feel a certain way. And did that feeling manifest with the other?
I don't care where the money comes from. I enjoy doing something as long as it leads to the result that I want. That's why I'm always like pointing out the wrong assumptions. Why limit yourself to a certain way if it's just a means to an end? Why do you care? Why do you care if this guy takes you to coffee but not lunch? Stupid example, but don't limit yourself because there are millions of possibilities. And if you focus on just one, it's basically you're stuck in that. And if it doesn't happen, you wrongfully think that this doesn't work. So let's say if I wasn't open to, let me explain. How did I change my mind and took the other path of creating content in Turkish? So when Tai Lopez invited me to LA, I also attended his mastermind where I learned about the psychological biases. They're so powerful because the limbic brain, the primitive brain, is hardwired by some feelings, and if you trigger them, most of our purchasing decisions are based on those feelings. So basically, someone from Tai Lopez's team taught me, if you do this, then they will buy from you. But this applies to, I don't even remember how exactly the switch from English content to Turkish happened, but it's my comfort zone, right? It's much easier for me to quote unquote manipulate people in my own language. So I started creating content, and right after that mastermind, the landing page and the sales video that I created is a masterpiece of marketing. Still to this day, I couldn't do anything that's like slightly as good as that thing, that landing page and the video. I'm still impressed. So like I was a tool for the universal mind to be used for my own manifestation. It gave me all the information, all the energy, all the mental status, whatever it is, that made me create something that I wouldn't be able to create otherwise. Do you understand the amazement of what I did myself? I wouldn't expect that from myself. So that video received hundreds of thousands of views, and then I also advertised using that video, and I started selling my courses without even creating the content for it. I made just one video, just one for launch. And I said, I'm going to drip the videos. You're going to get one video per day. So you won't be overwhelmed. You won't get more than you can consume. So it was like a pretty lean operation in terms of creating a like huge amount of content, which I don't know whether it's going to sell or not. I made one video and the landing page and the video and the sales video. So I put together a curriculum. So it's like 20 videos, but only titles. There's only one. When people started buying it for $150, I started creating the rest of the course. Easier for me. Easy. So I sold like 25 of them in 2 days, in 48 hours. 25 times $150. So you see that it's happening. There is no question about the success of the course at that point. Everything was right. The stars were aligned. Turkish economy was much better back then. Anyone could afford my courses. Not anymore. Right now, it's a completely different story, by the way. But I'm not supposed to know that. The universe knows and like puts me in LA to that mastermind, and I take notes, and it's as if I'm watching myself from a distance and like being amazed by what this guy is doing, because it doesn't feel like it's me. It's too much. When universe takes over, success is guaranteed no matter what we're talking about. That's the kind of trust you should have. And it's pretty
Yeah.
easy. You just need to order. And when you keep repeating the process of ordering something, it becomes natural. Again, the scientific explanation of this, I discussed this with a friend of mine who is a trauma expert, like he heals people. And she said, so when you repeat things, she's not spiritual, she's all scientific. She says, yeah, it looks like it might have worked for you just because of the fact that it became familiar to you. When you write something down for 100 times, it's like you, what I call the simulation happens. Your nervous system internalizes it. So it's not like a distant possibility, but you believe it, start believing in it, and you act differently. Another example, you go to, oh, WhatsApp, let me turn you off. When you go to a horror movie, you know that it's a production, it's man-made, it's fiction, right? Yet in a dark environment, when there's a nervous scene, when you see the killer going out of somewhere and like killing someone, it triggers you. You feel it in your nervous system because the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between right and wrong. Your prefrontal cortex knows that you're safe in that environment. It's a movie, you will go out safe, no one is getting killed, but your nervous system doesn't know that. That's why we go to horror movies. Same.
So opposite, is that where the action step comes in? Because we're doing this ordering. Like I was doing this on my walk. I was like, I can't wait to see how this windfall of money will come in that isn't from my job. So that's like the ordering aspect. So is the subconscious, like the horror movie in its polar opposite with positivity, is that where the work comes in, where I have to start to feel it, to believe it, to train my subconscious? That's my new world of life.
That's why it's called the law of assumption. You're assuming something, then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You don't really need to pay attention to why it happens, why it works. If you give it, like if you try it long enough, you're going to start seeing the results, then it's going to be a no-brainer. If I got this small reward, then why not keep doing it? Because you know that every time it's going to work every time, and you're going to start getting bigger rewards because now you believe, because you've seen it with your eyes that it works. So we're switching our assumptions from negative ones to positive ones.
Okay. Are you doing practices like that when you say you set an alarm? So when the alarm goes off, do you say a statement? Like how does it work? Take us to the day.
First, at night, there is no single formula to this, but my goal is now to become a billionaire, which sounds ridiculous given like my situation compared to all the billionaires out there. Elon Musk is running like 6-7 billion-dollar companies. That's why he's a billionaire. Jeff Bezos like sells millions of packages every day. That's why he's a billionaire. But there are many other ways. Like there are Bitcoin billionaires too. Now the technology made it much easier. Let's say 30 years ago, it was much less realistic to set a goal of being a billionaire. But now I know that there are more and more ways every year with technology, especially with AI now. They say there will be one-person billion-dollar companies. And I know that it's possible. So I don't spend 1 second on thinking whether it's possible or not. Why care about whether it's realistic or not? So I set a pretty high goal now because I enjoy exploring. Like journey is the reward to me right now because it worked at a smaller level before. You mentioned $1 million. $1 million is not even a big amount anymore given the economy. So first things first, I said, don't be surprised in good or bad ways. Like don't be devastated with something that looks bad, and don't be amazed by a certain result either. Normalizing things. The coffee example represents this. You wouldn't be happy to be able to get a cup of coffee. So expand your limits of comfort from a cup of coffee to $1 million. It's right. Now I expanded it all the way to $1 billion. Even though it is like there is nothing in real life that will like make me feel comfortable about feeling about having $1 billion. Far from that. I don't know, but I'm prepared, mentally prepared, and I won't be surprised. Again, because I had some kind of success with the whole manifestation story before. why it may look like
Mm-hmm.
it's easy for you to say that. But I'm telling you, I was in Russia living in like a couple of $1,000s per month kind of budget. And then I changed my reality completely within 3 months. Everything's possible.
And so if millionaire is your step point, how are you structuring your day in regard to making that happen? Are you still doing the writing out? Like, take us through
I
when you wake
forgot
up to when you go to bed.
to complete that answer. At night, I say, so the goal is being a billionaire, right? And there are, let's say, 5,000 things that need to happen for me to get there, small or big. Meeting with people, considering ideas, executing them, finding a way of doing something more efficiently, finding customers, 5,000 steps. Okay. And since I'm not in a position to like put this as a list, I'm going to do this and this and this, and then I'm going to become a billionaire. It doesn't work like that. So coming from the assumption of being a billionaire, I gave myself like 12 years for some reason. I don't know why. The thing that I'm ordering for my subconscious mind before I go to bed is whatever needs to happen tomorrow, make it happen out of this, let's say 5,000 random number in itemized list of things. Whatever needs to happen tomorrow, make it happen. It might not be visible to me, by the way. Maybe the universe is arranging things like in the Russia LA case. I couldn't arrange the availability of this mastermind or a guy named Ty Lopez doing what he's doing. So that was arranged completely differently, completely independently from my reality. So again, just to prevent from you from assuming the wrong idea, whatever needs to happen will happen. This is what I'm ordering before I go to bed. Sometimes I see like a small thing happening within my reality. Sometimes I don't. That's why it's difficult. No matter how many times you get success with this, you still need to remind yourself because as people, we are pretty limited in terms of the things that we believe. If we see them, it's much more easier to believe them. That's why you have to keep believing even though you don't see anything within your physical reality. That's the difficult part. That's why I suggest you set the
Yeah.
alarms. So during the day, and this started with you again, believe it or not, because everything that I tell you is a reminder for myself. I know this. It worked for me before, but even I need to be reminded during the day or once in a while because our physical reality defines us if we let it. Like you send me something, there are unlimited possibilities. So all we need to do is unlearn because as kids, we assumed that anything is possible, right? You didn't need anything. You assumed that you're living in a certain space. You acted like you have a certain toy, especially in our generation. Nowadays, they're more spoiled. They want to have everything. But it was easier to imagine anything and it will become your reality, even though it's not in your physical reality. You acted a certain way, you felt a certain way, and that's your reality. You're a princess in your room, acting like a princess, playing the game of being a princess, right? We lost it as adults because we have to make money, we have to pay rent. We know that reality doesn't work like that. This is what the society, what school, what our parents taught us. If we kept playing in our rooms, at some point someone would say, okay, enough, you're not a kid anymore, you have to go out there and make money. And so this is like the cancer of our society, disbelief. That's what we should unlearn. I love English for this. We don't have a word for unlearn in Turkish. We have forget, but unlearn is exactly what we need to do
More
because
powerful.
we weren't born like this. People who believe they can do
No.
anything. Elon Musk believed that we're going to
Yeah.
colonize Mars. He didn't lose that part of his childhood. He has an amazing mom too. Of course he's a genius. He has all this talent, all these resources. But again, if you got all his money, distributed it evenly to other people, he would still become rich. We know that for a fact, right? When you visualize Elon Musk and if you strip him out of his money, you know that he won't stay broke because he has a different understanding of reality. I give
Right.
Elon as an example so often because he's like so far ahead of anyone on earth when it comes to believing what you can achieve. He's unlimited. That's why.
So in your day to day, are you saying the same thing? And are you this like assumption? Are you acting as if? And actually, this leads me to a question of when you are acting as if you're a billionaire, how are you acting? Because I noticed that when I was like, what would a wealthy person do? I was like, oh, well, she'd buy the expensive coffee. She'd buy the dress, you know? And I was like, yeah, but like current Jamie can't do that, you know? So you're still ordering, like when those alarms go off, you're saying the same thing that you did in the nighttime? And then are you doing certain activities,
Can
person you're
do
doing?
so. Let's say it goes off at 3 p.m., 4:30, 7:15. Okay, and you're doing different things at certain times. Think about how you can apply the process of ordering to that certain time frame. So we went to Miami recently, right, with my family, and we flew economy. We checked the business class prices because I have an 8-year-old. It would cost $7,000. It was okay for me to pay that amount because you want to fly rested, but my wife didn't let me buy business class tickets, and it was tiring with the kids flying economy, not being able to sleep. What I do is, because I was able to charter a private jet before, I know the difference. It's day and night. You go to the airport whenever you want. You, of course, there's a certain time that you agreed on when the plane will take off, but you don't have to run there because the pilots won't fly without you because you chartered that plane. They're the reason they are there at that given time is because they're gonna fly just you and your family. So if you're, let's say, 20 minutes late, nothing will happen. They will be waiting for you. So I visualized that experience going back in time, and like we're being picked up with huge SUV, two guys putting our luggages in the trunk. We have a nanny and we could bring her with us. We didn't. You have a team of people making your life easier for you. As you go through in your physical reality, go through the security with kids, waiting in line forever, because private jets have different airports. I would be going to Venice instead of LAX if I were to fly private. And as you would take us there, someone would put our luggages on the airplane and we would board. As soon as we take off, we would be in bed for 6 hours. You can sleep laying like completely.
So you're visualizing this and you're feeling it, and you set time in your day to make
Yes,
this
because in
visualization
my
happen.
physical reality, this is disturbed by the fact that he has to go through these difficulties. And what's the opposite of it? How do you represent that time frame in your billionaire version? You will be flying private with a team of people who are helping you. So it's much easier.
Yeah.
And you don't have to have this experience. Of course, that's why I was watching these Lamborghini videos on YouTube. There's all kinds of content. If you want to see what private flight experience feels like, you're going to just search for it and you're going to watch a video about it. So the physically limited Jamie needs those experiences, a fancier dress, whatever. Actually, you
Right.
shouldn't even need experience that to be able to convince your mind that it's possible. So don't
Right.
put yourself in a difficult position where you're going to break the bank just to do the simulation. If you are able to do that, it just helps with the feeling part. I can't buy a jet yet, but I can rent it for a couple of hours right now. It could financially make sense for me to refresh that feeling because then it becomes so powerful. After renting the jet for a couple of months, I act differently and it creates a huge difference in terms of results that I get. There is no way that you fly private once and you still maintain like a small thinking kind of behavior, trying to save a couple of dollars here and there. It's impossible because you are rewired as a person when you have an experience like that. So that's why I try to get there in incremental improvements. Like first, when I'm not able to even rent the Lamborghini, I was using YouTube and the rest is just a couple of $100s. Then I was able to rent it. Then I was able to buy it. So there are just 3 steps to buying the Lamborghini. Of course, in real life, things are happening as I move forward from watching the YouTube videos to renting to buying. But you are almost irrelevant to the whole process of making it happen. You just keep ordering, you just stay in the zone, feel rich no matter what, feel loved, feel like you're attracting people to your life. And then it's just a matter of time. Because again, things are being arranged for you somewhere else. You don't see them. Don't.
So even when you had the vision of being picked up in the SUV and having your luggage taken care of, but then you're still in a security line with a screaming baby and like eating airport food, and you have that vision, you're like, oh, I wish. Like, do you feel the discrepancy in the two realities, and you feel it, but you're like, whatever, it's gonna happen. So even though the opposite is happening, you're still staying in the
So it
zone
works
of your
two ways.
desire.
We run away from pain and we seek pleasure, right? In that given example,
Right.
there's pain. That's why I was able to reinforce my need for change the way we travel, because this is not the ideal way of traveling, and I know that I can do much better than this. So in that case, it's escaping from the pain.
But in when the pain thing does happen, because you had to write economy, is there a part of you that is still just, you still have implicit trust in the vision that
Sure.
you manifested, even
I
though
see
the
it as an
thing didn't happen?
opportunity to get in the zone, because if I hadn't gone through this difficulty, it wouldn't be in my, like, that day, I wouldn't visualize about it.
Mm.
So it helps me reject the physical reality as it's given right now. And it helps me
Mm.
remember to keep ordering. That's really all we need to do. It's
Mm.
unbelievable. Keep ordering. This is experimental because it worked for me. I want to see if it works for other people. That's why I want, starting with you, I'm going to
Uh,
remind you maybe during the day. That's what I'm doing. Did you like set a goal of having an amazing day today? Did you start searching for amazement? That's one part of it. Ordering is more important than that. So, yeah, maybe we can build an app to send out notifications randomly, which people modify based on
right.
their requirements.
Yeah, because I think there's a part of me that's like, is it just as simple as like having a conversation with your subconscious or your higher self? Like, there's a part of me that's like, there's got to be more steps. That's why I keep asking, like, do you set a time, visualization times? Like, I just set an hour in my fantasy land, and I usually don't take time to do that. I'm a doer. I'm a little bit more of an action step taker. So this was a really good like embodiment experience for me, since I didn't have my pens, I didn't have a to-do list. So I guess there's a part of me that's like, there has to be
Yeah,
more
that's
complicated than this, than the just
mine is trying to
ordering.
justify things. I understand that because of fear of the possibility that it's not that easy. It's not as easy as. Again,
Right.
that's why I said if you were to believe that you can become a millionaire in 1 month, it would happen. So it's all about how distant you are from where you should be. That's why rich people's kids, even though let's say they like Bill Gates' kids won't inherit billions, right? He's giving away most of his wealth, like
Mm.
99%. But his children will still do well because they believe they were born into a world where they believe that anything is possible. You can live the life of a billionaire.
Totally.
They didn't make that money, and their father won't give away his money to them. But do you think they have fear about like any?
How are they gonna make
Yeah.
ends meet?
So it's
No.
about how strongly you can believe in things happening. So
Right.
always think
It's so
Always
true.
think about the distance between how confident you should be about a certain thing happening, being real, and how far away from belief you are.
And in manifestation, people always say the how is
Right.
none of your business, right? The how is just going to get in the way. And I think that's what happens to me is, and a lot of people, right? It's like, especially with money, like, okay, I really want to make six figures this year. How am I going to do it? And then I can feel like a contraction, right? I'm like, oh, I don't know how, I don't know how many courses I can sell or how many students I can teach. And I can feel that's just like not the direction we need to be going
Look,
in.
I always try to give examples from my own life. How am I going to become a billionaire? By creating this content? How many people will pay me what to listen to me? So I'm going to become a billionaire. Yet I know that it's going to happen. So I'm trying to lead by example. I'm in the same position as you are. When you consider my goal with your goals, let's say they're more modest because you haven't done that before. I'm in the same place. I'm not making $1 million a month. How am I going to make billions? I don't
Mm.
know. And I don't care. I don't pay attention. I don't spend any energy on thinking that because it's beyond me.
What's
It's
right?
my only job is to believe. How crazy is that? Well,
That, and I guess I have nothing to lose, right? It's like, why not?
and why am I trying to explain these to you? What's in it for me to make you believe? That should be a sign for you. Like we discussed the way we met, right? Doesn't it sound
Mm-hmm.
like a miracle already? Now that given that
Yeah.
it helped me go international, I decided to build an English speaking community, an audience. So could we plan that, Jamie? That's just one thing that happened in last how many weeks? 2-3 weeks.
Yeah,
You have to see
it's
them. You have to
crazy.
appreciate and be grateful for these things, and you get like bigger
Right.
ones.
Yeah, I do. And I have noticed that, like, when I'm looking back at the last 21 days, like meeting you, meeting a student that's also like a social media influencer, like interviewing you both, like having like access to people that
Right.
have what I want. And I haven't had that ever, maybe. So
Yes.
it's already
Let's say
starting.
you have 1,000 steps, whereas I have 5,000 because I have a more ambitious goal. Maybe go back, look at what happened over the 2-3 weeks and write them down. So you're gonna cross like 3 or 4 things off the list, which you don't know. You're not populating the list yourself. But if you write down 3 things that you just mentioned, then you see that it's already happening. Again, we have an
Right.
assumption bigger things need to be happening or faster, or I should have stronger signs. No, they're your assumptions. You wouldn't be able to put together the things that need to happen to get you there. So you might better enjoy the process because it's happening for you. It's easier.
And the doing, like the doing aspect of trying to get
So important.
somewhere versus
Thank you
being.
for reminding me this. It's gonna be so obvious to you when, let's say, like I said, we are an agent, right? I was an agent to create that piece of content that started my journey that led me to moving to United States. So it's so apparent everything is ready for you. Going to that mastermind, listening to this guy talking about psychological biases, taking notes. He makes it so apparent that if you use them, you're going to trigger people and change their behavior when they see your ad. You know how many minutes? I have a 28-minute long ad on YouTube and millions of people watched it. Who watches 28-minute ads? We can't even like stand 5 seconds, right? Millions of people watch
Right.
because of the way I put it together perfectly. They want to hear what's coming next. What's the next sentence? And it wasn't me. I couldn't do it if it wasn't for that Tai Lopez's guy who taught me psychological biases. So that's what I mean when I say I couldn't have planned that. I couldn't together this plan myself. The physical human being, I'm pretty limited, but I have some kind of connection to this unlimited wisdom. When I tap into it, anything is possible. And you're just an agent, believe me. So again, this is difficult to grasp. I understand this. You need to experience it for yourself. But I'm a living example, and I know that you can understand. I'm not the only one. This message has been in books, in movies, in YouTube videos. Millions of people believe and benefit from it. If our education system decided to include this into our curriculum, like high school, college, whatever, then we would be living in a different world because its education
Right.
is right now, especially, mostly about unlearning the stuff that we've been taught.
And it's like they don't want us to know how powerful we are, that we can have everything we want, because then the economy wouldn't be.
Maybe that's going to change because that's a different discussion. Economy relies on people doing their like simple parts, going to their offices, 9 to 5
Right.
jobs. But COVID changed things, and AI will change things dramatically again. Many things that human beings are doing right now will be irrelevant. It's going to be unnecessary. It's an exciting time, Dev.
And I like that perspective, right? Because a lot of people being like, this is terrifying, but that's not the world I want to experience. It's like I want to experience the world where it's all going to benefit.
So you're digging a hole on the ground. Let's say you're using a small spoon. So it will take you forever to dig the hole, like big enough, let's say, to fit yourself. Someone else is doing it with a shovel, which is much easier than a spoon. And there's another guy who has access to an excavator, like a big device. So he finishes it in like a couple of minutes. So belief is so powerful that if you believe that that's the only way to dig that hole with your, and there's no other, there might be shovels or excavator and you won't see them.
Yeah, because it reminds me of this thinking of when I say I want to make a certain amount of money, but I look at the ways that I'm making money and I'm like, how would I double it with what I'm doing? Which is like the spoon, kind of like it, like my $1,000,000 has to come from the spoon of my coaching. And then I was fantasizing about getting a windfall of an inheritance or like having a benefactor, just like angel investor, be like, I believe in everything Jamie's doing and just cut me a big check, you know? So it's like something that I actually don't think would no, cancel, clear, delete, definitely could happen. It's something that Jamie
Right.
1.0 didn't believe in, you know, and just playing. Like I just felt myself playing with that idea. Like if I got a check tomorrow for $100,000, like what would I do? And I felt in my body like the relief I would feel from just not having to worry about where anything's coming from for the next 2 years. Like I could easily
Right.
not work, right? So I just started to play. And in the play, in the freedom, I was like, oh, I'd take my friends out to dinner. Oh, I'd book a first class ticket. Oh, I'd pay this off. And within the play, I felt that had access to the dimensional
Hmm.
reality that was real.
Everything you mentioned regarding limitations is, again, it applies to the adult world driven by fear. That's why maybe it's easier to embody
Mm-hmm.
the child who has no fear about anything not being not
Right.
happening, or like any kind of difficulty. To remove the limits as an adult is difficult. I understand that. That's why play the game of being a child again, which makes it easier to limitations, right? During that game, you're gonna be a kid, and kid has no fears. So if you play the kid, you can use the game of playing the kid to remove your adult fears.
And I'm in the world of subconscious reprogramming and hypnosis. And like, you know, I was just watching something by Melissa Peer, who's a famous hypnosis therapist, and she specializes in everything we're talking about. But it's this wiring the belief system and going into theta state, going into a subconscious meditation and starting to rewire with affirmations, or even as far as going into previous memories and reprogramming, which is a little bit more
I don't think they are
involved.
needed.
Yeah, so it seems to me that you're jumping the steps of the belief work and you're just really stepping into it. You're like, I have nothing to lose. I'm just going forward with the new belief system. And is that
Everything you
correct or not?
mentioned is, again, to remove the limitations created by your adult world. Why take the difficult
Right.
path of doing that? If you, as a kid, if you didn't have any of these, play the game of being a kid. I just came up with this, by the way.
Love
So,
that.
again, when there is an example called Elon Musk in our life, and he doesn't have any kind of mental limitations, it's a chance for us to see that this is possible even in adult world. He has no fear, he has no limitations, but he has reasons. He was always like that. He was a millionaire when he was 25 because he sold his first company when he was 20 something. So it was like he has a track record. That's why you can believe that's why it's easy for him. Okay, put it aside and then play the kid game.
Wow. Yeah, that feels like that's what I was doing earlier. It just felt like I'm literally in a forest with a blanket and I have nothing to do but play in my mind.
The subconscious is so powerful. When you do your part, manipulate it, it's going to take over. Then you're going to see the difference. It doesn't have any kind of limitation that you have with the limited part of this brain here. That's why when you get high or when you're drunk, you limit the activity here. That's why when the curtain is
Mm-hmm.
removed, you become more relaxed, more creative. That should be
Yeah.
our normal state without getting high or drunk. Like,
Yes. It's easier when
right.
I'm
That's
high.
why,
Just
because the fear is instilled here, into you by this part, which is doing its own job, because
mm,
the function of the brain is not to make you happy or to make you rich. It's just for survival. If there's a risk, there's an untraveled path, it will prevent you from going there, because it will want you to keep doing what you've been doing because you didn't die doing that. That's the definition of comfort zone. It wants to
wow.
preserve energy. If it was to her, you wouldn't do anything. You would just sit and spend your life without spending any energy, and you would be safe there. That's why turning it off or overriding it with a much stronger belief of anything is possible is the only way to go. Give it a chance.
Incredible.
Like, do it as a game. I'm already a millionaire. I'm like you, the way you put it is perfect. Jamie 2.0. 1.0 was
Yeah.
limited. Like, you can even look down on her. Oh, 1.0. She was so limited. I'm not that. I'm going to
Right.
4.0. So 2.0, the function of my new version is to realize it, to get this story into my awareness so that I can go to the next version. Just bury the first version, limited, fearful, limiting her options, her possibilities. Whatever you're doing might be irrelevant. You might start something completely new. It happened to me. I had assumption I would sell
Right.
leads to Americans. I sell content to Turkish people, and I enjoyed doing it, changed a lot of people's lives, made a lot of money doing it, and it
Mm,
got me to Los Angeles and to the Lamborghini toys and things. That's another story. It's when you get get there, you realize that's not the answer, like Jim Carrey said.
Yeah, and it ends up being like when I think about what I would spend all this inheritance on, it's like, yeah, I'd get the luxury, and then I'd want to go fund scholarships. So it's like I can't wait to be a
Amazing.
philanthropist. Like when I think about giving it back, I
So
get
good
really
because
excited.
a bigger goal, like more noble one, like you're not wanting it for yourself. That's why
Yeah.
it becomes even more possible when it's about spreading
Mhm.
something like the global universal resources to other people, not just to your pocket, but to many people. You have a
Yeah.
stronger reason behind your behavior.
Yeah. It feels like I can feel my body lighting up as like this chosen one, like a chosen one to be awake in this time with this information, with this level of frequency and intellect to really start to encode myself with these truths and then share them. Like it's exactly what you're doing with me, right? There was a part of me that was like, what's in it for you to be coaching me? And I think about when I share this with my clients, I'm like, oh, I light the fuck up when I talk about it. And like you said, it's reinforcing it for me. It just feels like it's wealth, right? This is abundance. Like
Right.
what we're experiencing is abundance. So it's like it just
It's
keep it
money
going.
or
Like,
love or
you know?
information. If you are in a higher position, I'm not talking about myself right now, you understand me? If you are not holding on to the limited amount that you have, then basically you have more than you need, which is the definition of wealth, right? Giving away love, money, information. You don't have to keep it as a secret, or you don't have to hold on to the small amount
Right.
that you have. You have so much that you're able to give it away.
It overflows. Amazing. Thank
Oh,
you
of
for
course, my
overflowing
pleasure.
your wisdom.
It helps me. Like I'm coming up with
Good.
methods, which is gonna help me as well.
Yeah, and I think having it, as you can see a theme with my questions is there's like it's like give me the manual, like give me the bullet points, like the AM, the PM, that's like kind of what my brain wants. So I know that I'm doing it.
Do you remember how you played as a kid?
Yeah, I danced and sang all the time on my
Okay,
porch.
but let's say you weren't hoping to become famous or rich as a kid, obviously. You didn't need that. That's the point. These
Wanted it.
but you could visualize it very easily if you wanted to. Like I remember as a kid, I loved the idea of driving a bus, okay? And how can I simulate this as a kid in your life? I have this bed and I remember drawing two like headlights to the front of my bed, which makes it a bus. Then I get in the bus, I put two pillows, which becomes a seat. Then I have a steering wheel. So with just three items, pillows as a seat, headlights, and a steering wheel, the bed becomes a bus. How easier can life get? Like as an adult, now I have to think about how am I going to afford a bus? How am I going to? But as a kid,
Now it's a private jet. Now it's a private jet. So maybe you need to start playing with
right.
that. That's awesome. That's exciting. It's all really, I can feel myself becoming a match to different like books. And I'm even reading a book differently it's a manifestation book. And I went back to it after our conversations. And I feel like I'm receiving the information differently with the background of everything we've been working
Physical
with.
limited versions of our need to be convinced over and over again.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
all you need to do is just order and let go, order and wait and believe. That's it. It's so difficult to believe. That's all.
I know, but it's that simple. And are you writing it? Do you write
I'm
it down
gonna
a
do
lot?
the 100 times method again. I told you
Yeah.
I went bankrupt, right? I really struggled, and we were expecting this baby, and my wife was pregnant. So I tried a couple of things. I did event rentals in LA. I wasn't making enough money. Then I'm gonna send you this book. It's pretty powerful. It makes you visualize your death. Like there are levels to it. First, you imagine you have 1 month left, then 1 week, then 1 day, then 24 hours, then one hour left. Okay, you're gonna die in an hour. You close your eyes and go into this experience back to back, shorter and shorter time left. And then the book wants you to associate the fact that you're leaving this earth without having done what you wanted to achieve.
Yeah.
So, survival is the strongest sense, the feeling. What it does is it just speeds up the process of altering your subconscious mind, I guess. I visualized, like it's stupid, but I wanted to make $30,000 to live comfortably per month for my family. And I did that. Like I'm dying without being able to make $30,000 a month in 1 month, in 1 week, in 1 day, in 24 hours, and 1 hour. It's depressing, but at the end of the session, don't really feel a lot. Next month, I made $30,000, and I never made less than $30,000 ever since. Yeah,
And this is all
this
from
is a
the
book.
courses, by the way.
The guy says this is pretty powerful stuff, so be careful when you're doing it because it might trigger like some kind of depression. So make sure you're healthy. Your personal traumas might get into the way. I'll send you the book, and there's only just 2 pages about this experience. I don't think you need that, by the way. I needed it because from bankrupt to survival and getting back on track, I used it and it worked. And he says you can do this, you can apply it to anything and it will.
That's amazing. And your $30,000 a month is all from these
It
multiple
doesn't
different
matter. Again,
courses.
yes. I After going bankrupt, I started this content business again, and this time I'm selling subscriptions. How did I come up with the idea of offering a subscription instead of selling a $250 course? Because it makes it much easier for people to pay like 25 dollars per month, and it makes it much easier for me, removes the stress of selling something every day because you're adding on top of what you already have. Like let's say 200 students are paying 25 and new students are coming on top of that, so it's easier for both sides. I never thought about starting a subscription service before, but probably this helped me come up with the right method because now Turkish people wouldn't be able to afford a higher price point anyway, so subconscious mind knows what's going.
And then that worked because there were enough people that were
I have
willing
like
to
2,400
subscribe.
students now.
That's it. That's amazing. That's definitely the next step for me
Yes.
in my business. Wow, 111.
Right.
That's a good stopping point.
Okay. Thank you, Jamie.
Amazing. Wow, awesome. Yeah. And next time, if I will have better lighting, because this
It's
isn't
okay.
very
The first
professional
one.
looking.
I don't care. It was perfect.
It's the first one. But yeah, I am an endless well of questions, experiences, and
We'll
inquiries.
continue doing this. I will do it with other people too, which will hopefully add to your like vision of thinking about this.
Yeah, I'd love it. Amazing.
Thank you, Jamie. See you. You
All
too.
right. Have the best
Bye.
night.